Fast and efficient software is great. But without control, speed kills. Security provides the guidance systems. It lowers risk, increases reliability. I'm looking for the ones who know about security, the ones who advocate speed with control. These are the security champions.
Hey, welcome to the new show, The Security Champions. This is where we travel around the world, anywhere USA, looking for those people who advocate for more secure applications, better controls and software, and development at the speed of the modern IT era that we find ourselves in. I'm Scott Moore, your host, and on this week we cover DEF CON 2023 in Vegas and sit down with Ryan Black. He's going to talk to us about what it takes to build a secure culture inside of large IT organizations, how you build it, how you grow a team. He's got some interesting insights I'm sure you're going to be wanting to see on this episode of The Security Champions. We're in Vegas and we are with Ryan Black. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got involved in AppSec?
Yeah, I'd say I have a non-traditional background in that sense. Certainly growing up and getting into technology, I like to hack things, not maliciously, but just curious, sort of see how things are put together and working through that. Came in as a system administrator, security administrator, on into static code analysis for those tools and teams and other similar workflow, right? And now today, I'm currently a chief information security officer at an insurance software company, but still remain very technical by design.
Awesome. So one of the things that I know that you focus on is how to build a secure SDLC and shifting this whole thing left. And this is something that happens all across the QA and testing world. So we're trying to get everything as early as possible with functional testing, performance testing, and security testing has to be in there as well. How easy is it to actually do that compared to some other? Is it the same? Is it the same thing, or is it totally different because security is special?
Yeah, I'd say that's a great question. The way I look at this is that security, or basically software defects are software defects. And in this sense, security testing is a feature or a process of software quality. And so while you have different focus on your QA team for performance testing, how you deploy and monitor software, how you test for security bugs, it's very much the same. Different tool sets, very much similar in importance, and I found that to be mostly a cultural opportunity to help the development team, to help the QA team, to help the security team all work together to the same goal. That quality software works as intended, whether it's a report that doesn't work as expected, just that type of bug fix versus something that could jeopardize data.
In your opinion, from what you've seen, are companies really doing this? How many are actually ready to be shifting left? How mature are they as far as an organization? Are we there yet, or we have a long way to go?
I'd say that varies, and that's a great question. When I think of this, I think of it in terms of those things happening in parallel, even fairly effectively. You've got a product security team, traditional AppSec team, running their tools, their tests, pre-release, post-release, those types of activities. And then you've got your traditional QA organization, part of engineering or development, doing similar work. I'd like to merge those together, help enable QA testers to do their important work that has security ramifications or applications as well, right? Similar types of unit testing that could be applied to help prevent security defects. So really merging those things together, having those teams learn from and teach each other, and be one team. Different focus on what they do on Monday, but work together very closely. And in my current organization, that's actually a big focus for us right now, is marrying those two together so that it's not security bugs being put in Jira. It's a software defect. The security team will help you groom, work through, and fix.
Actually, it's extremely refreshing to hear you talk in terms of this is another defect for software quality. A vulnerability, you can call it that, but it is a software defect at the end of the day. It's a bug, right? And so for you to say, we're hackers, yes, but we're not some special entity that only exists in an ether world, right? We're part of the quality process for functionality, performance, and security. It's all part of the same thing. And you're trying to reach the same goal. So that's great. But there's also this culture aspect of it. So how do you get people on board? I know I have a tough time selling the whole performance thing until they have an outage. And then everybody's my friend, right? But security these days is a must-have. You cannot make the choice. We're okay with getting hacked. We're okay with being on the front of the Wall Street Journal next week. They have to have it. But it's not as simple as walking in there saying, okay, today you're doing this, right? So how do you get people on board and how do you build that culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that really starts in different layers, from the boardroom, C-suite, on down through your engineering leadership, product teams, and then just in the trenches, if you will. I'll start at the bottom and go up, actually. So really, for me, that's with different engineers, having a security team that has a development background, developer awareness, empathy is a key word there, know what their Monday or Tuesday looks like, the stressors of getting through a sprint to get product features out, and what it takes to fix things. And what I mean by that is once you have that credibility and rapport built, you can work together on things. What the litmus test of that success has been in my most recent role has been, would someone come to me in Slack and say, hey, can you look at this? You know, they're asking, it's not, they're going to bring work or say, shame on you, or that's not good. It's, how can you help me solve something? Jump in a Zoom, work together, right? And so that same thing permeates through, engineering leadership is saying, of all things, we've got these 10 things to work on. Can we get these 3? They're related to the work you're doing. You've got the context and that credibility to say, can we sneak this fix in? So it's about practical risk or pragmatic risk reduction in that regard. And that has to go with, you've got a business to run, can't turn all the computers off. But you do want to fix things in a thoughtful way that will reduce risk and be, even if it's an inch one week or one sprint and it's a mile the next, you're working together to keep moving and keep fixing things.
So would it be fair to say that instead of somebody going, oh, I got to go to Brian, he's going to get in the way of us getting this thing rolled out, it's going to mess up there, versus, hey, this is my trusted advisor. I don't want to roll this thing out without talking to him. I want him to look at this and make sure this is okay. When you've got that type of relationship, you know you got the right culture.
Exactly. And I think one important piece of that gives you a little bit of little goodwill there is if you really need to say, look, this must be fixed. Let me explain it to you. The first response there is, help me understand. We've got these things to do, but I'm hearing you. Well, this is a big deal, right? So help me understand. It's not, oh man, this team or this individual is going to slow my work down. And if you can get to that point where you've got that trust built up, folks sit down, you whiteboard it, or it's a quick Slack conversation, but someone knows how important it is, and it's some trust you have to build.
When somebody believes that this person is trying to make sure that I look good when I get out there in front of clients, they're trying to make me look good. They're not trying to make me look bad by isolating, hey, you did this wrong. It's not that but I'd rather know now than have all of my clients.
Isn't that true for all software defects, right?
Every bit of it.
Prevent them, the shift left paradigm, you've got it in your ID with tooling. You've got training of how developers work through those things, different thematic issues, or even just functional, how you'd implement something, onto commit-based scanning and different tools you can do there, pull requests, review, on up to your QA process, which includes your security team as a partner. And then finally, as you elevate something throughout an environment, anything before it's production, right? And so you don't want your clients to see those issues, whether it's a report that doesn't work or a security issue.
Let me make a parallel between performance testing. There are things that we can shift left very easily, automate, and that early feedback is priceless, really. And so if we can engineer performance into something so early that the back end piece of it, right before you roll production, almost does become a check mark in a good way. Like, we've done so much here, but there are things that you cannot shift left and forward. So you still have to look at the bigger picture. You still have to look at an integrated test. Does that match what you deal with in security? You can't put everything over here, because if you just shift everything left, the ship kind of topples over this way and you don't have these checks over here. What are the things that people may miss if they just try to put everything over on the left hand?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, you've got certain things like the lack of data sanitization or some of the practices there, right, that you want to catch in your tooling. You want to educate the developers avoiding that, but things like business logic flaws, unintended functionality, you can say, those things are more apt to be caught around the actual user acceptance testing or similar, and you want more time for that. Right. So what you can bifurcate and shift left and work on that through tooling process and the prevention of issues in the first place, you have more time to focus on the sand, the polish, and preventing issues that are more nuanced.
So this becomes low-hanging fruit that you can get out of the way, so you can focus on the real problems that are really going to cause damage.
Right. And you've got more of that time for the, hey, this can't go out, we've got to work on it, versus let's do a mitigation here and work on this in our next release, those conversations. And I think the main pressure that can happen between product teams, product development, et cetera, is that everyone's really busy. I mentioned that empathy earlier. It's very important to say, I know what you're dealing with, how many things you've got in this sprint. Let's see what we can work in there.
Okay, so far, most of what we talked about is, I think, easily applied, or more of an easy play for private companies and smaller companies, people who have started off as a DevOps culture and those type of companies. But let's talk about the the bigger companies, the Fortune 500s, the highly regulated companies in financial, healthcare, governments, where there is a need for a lot more rigor in this testing. And how do we determine if these agencies are resilient enough to build out this and be ready overall to apply that rigor to security practices?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a couple layers to that. There is more of the control says this, you must use these encryption algorithms or not, or things that have to do with the system boundary. And I'm referring more to, say, FedRAMP or StateRAMP, et cetera, a government cloud service offering where I've got some experience in. But there's other pieces to it too. There's the depth of bench for your team, whether it requires cleared persons, and having the organization accustomed to a less amount of discretion. So say remediation timelines and so forth. You've got a responsibility in those agencies, a contractual obligation in many cases, to remediate things in a certain time frame and be able to report upon certain issues. Also things like continuous monitoring that involve the whole spate of things, including those typical SOC responsibilities and so forth. So I think it's just that the rigor, as you said, that imposed rigor in saying we have to rise and make sure we're doing things right here. It's an obligation.
But being ready and being resilient for that, it brings up a question about the people doing this have to have the right skill sets to do it. And every day I'm hearing we don't have enough cybersecurity experts out there, and there's this need. So how do we fix that? How do we get people ramped up on this so that they can do this?
Yeah, I think one important thing is, even in your own organization, to take the time to cross-train, to bring people in, because it is one thing I mentioned, the control mapping and some of that, but there's a bit of subjectivity there. What's the intent of the control, and how do you apply that to your environment? So bringing in different colleagues from your team to help them level up and learn how, say, the federal PMO, for example, may interpret that and what they're referring to. Anything that may be more black and white or very clear, onto more nuanced of what they mean by the control, and to make sure you're doing the right thing, first of all, but that you meet the important requirements before you're assessed. Or as an ongoing obligation, right? So I think that would be from your own teams. That would be from continuous education externally. So as security practitioners and professionals or IT professionals, visiting those webinars, reading about the different releases from the agencies that are supporting this, so you can understand what they're after and make sure you're meeting the requirements they're setting forth.
Okay, we can't end the interview without me asking you the where do we go from here question, the future. And I ask this of everybody. So you're attending Black Hat, you're attending DEF CON, you're seeing where we're at today. Where do you think we are in 2 to 3 years from now? Give us a 36-month window into where things are going.
Yeah, I know where I'd like to be. And in that sense, it's the earlier conversation we were having about having those teams work very closely together. However many tools we have are created, there's all sorts of great technology to help us do our jobs. But what I want to see are the people working more closely together. Dev, QA, product, security. So you don't have this separation of concerns there. Whether you're all working on putting your issues into Jira or filling out some compliance things, you're working together. Security is everyone's responsibility. It's a function of quality to deliver services to your clients, whether it be software or what your company offers. And the teams need to work together. So facilitating that for we're all in this together, here's how we can complement each other and help each other do so. And then use the great tooling we have effectively. Bring them into your vulnerability management tooling. Bring them into your processes and you to theirs.
So emphasize better process first, then you have the tool. It doesn't matter because the tools are going to change. The technology is going to change. The tactics are going to change. And maybe we focus on how to adapt faster to all of this change that's happening. If we can adapt, we can keep up with it. So we can keep up with the bad guys, and the good guys are keeping them away. Better. You agree with that?
Yeah, it takes all of us. It really does. I mean, irrespective of the size of your organization, security team is often, as is normal, much smaller than your engineering org and so forth, right? So my opinion is our information security org is there to be a steward of these things, to be a champion of these things, to bring people along, put the metaphorical arm around the shoulder to help pull things forward, but not the sole responsible organization for it. To your point, it's getting everyone together to influence process, to influence collaboration, and the tools will just help us continue to grow and be efficient in doing so.
Well, this has been a great discussion, and we really appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, that's today's show. Quality software includes functional, performance, and security testing. And security gives us that risk level tolerance, that comfort zone of rolling out to production. And that's what we need today. And we need to find those people who want to emphasize the sec in DevSecOps, the security aspect of it. And that's why we have this never-ending quest to find those security champions. We'll see you next time. I'm Scott Moore. Bye-bye.